one of, if not the greatest frontman in the world ever. And he has an exclusive song for us, one that has never been heard before by us. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's the one and only Mick Jagger. Morning, Mick.
Good morning, Di. How you doing? Right?
I'm doing all right. Very excited to speak to you.
Well, me too.
Obviously, with the Rolling Stones, you have recorded so many albums, so much material through the years. But the great thing for us is that you then unearth these gems that have been locked away, hidden away somewhere, and then you rediscover them, and then we get to hear them. Tell us a bit about Scarlet.
Well, Scarlet was like, I'd completely forgotten about this one. And it was recorded around the time of when we made Goat's Head Soup, which I think is like 1973. And it was recorded in Ronnie Wood's basement of his house. Sounds very rock and roll, doesn't it? But I must say it was a basement of a very luxurious house. And I don't know why, but anyway, we just got together and started having a... it was Keith and me, and then Jimmy Page turned up for some reason, and we had, various other musicians. Anyway, so I had this song, so let's try this out, I don't know how it's going to work out. And so we, ran through this amongst other things, and then Keith and I just focused on it. And then since then, I had completely forgotten about it. And then someone told me it was Ginger Baker on drums, and I rang June Page up. And June Page remembered, I didn't remember anything. June Page remembered everything. No, it was done. It was done this, and this person played on it, and it wasn't Ginger Baker, and so I said, all right, he seemed so certain about it that I wasn't going to question it for a moment.
Never question Jimmy Page, for goodness sake, his memory.
I'm not going to question him, and I've spoken to him for years, but he was very sweet, and he remembered the whole thing. Anyway, so, after, I'm obviously had to mix it, and I put a bit of maracas on it, like you would do, finish the track, I can't have it without maracas. So, mixed it up, and here it is as one of the extra tracks that we put on Goat's Head Soup.
Well, this is brilliant, isn't it? Because you've got a reissue of Goat's Head Soup back from 1973. I mean, this is the album that featured Angie and did it, Heartbreaker. I mean, an absolute classic. And then you do these brilliant things as a band, which the fans absolutely go crazy for. But I love hearing these stories as well about how the days were then. That you're just in Keith's basement. That all sorts of people come by and just sit down and play. Thank goodness Jimmy Page remembers these things, because it's not really surprising that you may not necessarily remember all these sessions.
Yeah, I know. Because you don't, because, if you do that many sessions in that many studios, I thought it was recorded here, that, I mean, you're in the studio, in and out of the studio all the time, you don't really remember that when they all sort of meld into one. But anyways, I'm glad that, first of all, if people like them, that's great. I'm glad they see eventually the light of day, because some of them are just as good as the stuff that you put out. It's just that you never finish. The bottom line is you didn't finish them. You're either too lazy or you're on a deadline or so. But you finished these 10 or 11 tracks, and we can't yet. I'm time to finish these other ones, and because we've got to go on tour or something. So that's how they get left behind, really.
I know, you can understand that. I mean, it's sort of looking back on those days, you had the RSM, the Rolling Stones mobile studio, which was brilliant. You talked to lots of musicians who were saying, you were touring so much and writing quite prolifically at that time, and it would be difficult to record because you'd be out on the road. So you had your own mobile studio, which I do believe Led Zeppelin recorded in.
Yeah, we recorded like a lot of Sticky Fingers in that mobile, and in my house in the country. I had a house in Hampshire, and Led Zeppelin used it as well for some of their records, and they got really great drum sounds in this room. Right? So there's a bit of sort of symmetry in this. It was about that time, or a little bit later than that, for them.
Do you remember meeting, the Led Zeppelin boys back in the day? And what, I'm quite interested to know, what did the Rolling Stones make of Led Zeppelin?
Well, the thing was, I knew Jimmy. Very, very early on, we're going back now 10 years before that. Makes you feel very young. I used to produce records. I did this record like Out of Time for Chris Farlow, which was a very successful record of the day, and I owned it in the early 60s, called Out of Time, which Keith and I they used to play chess in between takes. That was their thing, and so that's how I met Jimmy, and that's how I met John Paul Jones, because he was the bass player like 1965. This was maybe, and so that I knew Jimmy from then, and I knew John Paul Jones from then, and then 10 years later, or a bit less than 10 years later, they made this very successful kind of band. And I used to go and watch them live. I remember watching their concerts live in New York and everything. I mean, it was a great, thunderous, wonderful racket, and brilliant. And I saw their I saw their last concert as well. And they were absolutely incredible. And I was so disappointed that they didn't actually go out and tour and do it. But then that's their business, not mine.
Oh, fantastic! New material from the Stones. You've been working on some new stuff. How long will we have to wait, do you reckon?
I don't know.
You're not doing it in Keith's basement again, are you?
Hold your breath. No. I was doing. We recorded some. The same times we did Ghost Town, we recorded a bunch of tracks. So actually, I've been finishing off the vocals and some other instruments on them. So, and do some mixes on them. So I'm working on it. So we'll try it. But we've got to get together and do a couple more sessions, I think. And we're not really going to get together at the moment right now. But it sounds good. What we've already done sounds pretty good to me.
Excellent. It's exciting stuff. Mick, what a treat to talk to you today. Will you introduce the record for us to play now?
Yes, this is the Rolling Stones playing Scarlet.
Thank you, Mick Jagger, legend.
Bye.
Bye. and gentlemen, the world exclusive first play of Scarlet by the Rolling Stones, featuring Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page, who just happens to be on the phone now too. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, Si. What a thrill it is to be talking to you on the day of the release. And thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute treat. And the great thing is that having just spoken to Mick, we can, see if some of his stories are true. One being, he says you always remember everything. His memory can be a bit vague on the recordings of this, of all sorts of stuff in his past, but he says somehow you just remember stuff, Jimmy.
Yeah. Some things I do remember in great clarity, but especially if it's something special, and this really was. Working with Keith was something right from scratch almost. He was playing it, and then everyone was sort of joining in and working their parts out to it, and then actually the following day putting the guitar solos on. And I knew it was something really special at the time, if you know what I mean. It just felt really great. And then more recently, Mick got in contact, and then he sent me a copy of the finished version. I thought, oh my goodness, that sounds so cool. And it is cool, it always was. But yeah, my memories of it are pretty clear because it was something special.
And yeah. The idea for all music fans of you guys in Keith's basement, getting together and effectively jamming and coming up with something so brilliant. I mean, Mick was talking about, and it's sort of commonly known that you were, one of the most sought after session guitarists of the time, and you worked with all the greats and had worked with Mick sort of way before, sort of the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin.
Well, certainly before the Rolling Stones, there was like the Chris Farlow Out of Time, and then the Rolling Stones did that Out of Time with the same sort of track. So yeah, I was on that. I was on a number of things, bits and pieces, and we do go back a long way, Mick and Keith and myself. I mean, I did actually meet them on a blues package tour before they were the Rolling Stones. So it was really interesting. All the blues fanatics sort of congregated to Manchester to hear like Johnny Hooker, etc., coming in of these various artists. And I remember going to a house. Somebody was a record collector, and they were there, and I got introduced to them. And they probably didn't really know who I was or remember it, but I do remember it. So yeah, our paths have crossed quite a lot over the years.
Mick was just saying how fantastic it was, to see you play back in the day, but then also see you play at the O2, and how he was gutted that you didn't then go on tour. Is that something that wouldn't happen now, or could it ever happen?
Well, I think at the time of the O2, we thought that like myself, John Paul Jones, and Jason thought that there was it was said that there were going to be some more dates. And it would have been really good to have done that after the O2, because we'd put a lot of work into the O2, and we were really on it, But it didn't come off, and it seems really unlikely that there would be a tour in the future. I mean, unlike the Stones, they do sort of know that the fans love that, and I also know that, like with Led Zeppelin. But it doesn't look as though there's anything in the future, unfortunately. Like we're talking about a concert that was gigantic in the time, but it's 2007, and time passes,
Yeah, no, I understand. It's something I guess people would love to have seen. Incredible.
Yes, I know. I understand that.
Yeah. What have you been doing during lockdown, Jimmy? We've all had all this time to ourselves, sorting out, Mick's found some classic old tracks. What have you been up to, Jimmy?
Well, I've been going through, I've been sort of sorting out my books, indexing my books, because I'm actually in the countryside, and there have been a lot of things that have come down here, like boxes of records, boxes of books, and I got a chance to really index everything and my records, etc. And I've been playing some guitar as well. I've been putting the time to good use. I mean, basically, when it happened, and I locked down before people even had to lock down, to be frank, and I just figured that I didn't want to look back on the period and go, I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that at that point in time. But it gave me a great opportunity to be able to sort of work on things that I hadn't had time to do beforehand. So, like everybody, if they've had the facility to be able to utilize the time well, You know, I sort of fit in the same bracket, really.
It's wonderful. I love that so many of our listeners have been indexing. They'll be glad to know that, Jimmy, you have too. Oh, Jimmy, it's so wonderful to speak to you. Fantastic to hear your work together on this track. Please take care, and hopefully we get to speak to you again soon. Jimmy Page.
Well, I'd love to do that, Zoe, and let's hope so. Thank you.
Take care, my love. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Jimmy.
Thank you, Zoe. Bye-bye.